G'day brewers, Hendo here from the Rockstar Brewer Academy. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can customize your brew logs to tailor wort production for your specific needs. Let's take a look. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the brew module in Beer30. And as you can see, I've already got a brew underway. In fact, this is the second brew of 2 turns going into 1 fermenter. Now, normally by default, Beer30 has lots and lots of default pieces of data that you're able to collect during your brew day, from mashing, boil alf, sparge, boil start, boil stop, whirlpool, etc. Now, one of the most common things that brewers ask us when they start using Beer30 is, how do I do step mashing? Well, with Beer30, that's pretty easy. You can see here that the mash rest section is pretty sparse, and we do that because we like our brewers to be able to customize things to their own needs. So what we'll do is we'll get out of this brew and we'll make some customizations to Beer30 so that we can set up some step mashing. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to the tools menu, and what we're going to do is we're going to define some custom fields for our brewing. So the first custom field I'm going to add is I'm going to add our mash step temperature and time, and I'm going to do that for, say, 3 mash steps. I'm going to do a 63, a 68, and a 72 degree mash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 mash steps into my custom fields. And what will happen is these will be available in the brew sheet as well as in recipes. So each of those mash steps is going to have a temperature and a time. So I'm going to need to add 6 custom fields, 2 of each for each of the 3 mash steps. So let's go and punch that in, shall we? So I'll go mash step temp 1, and that is going to be a temperature. And I'll make that in degrees, and that is going to be in the brew module, and it's going to be part of the mash rest. I'm going to make that required, and I'll define that custom field. Then I'll go mash step time 1, and I'm going to do that in minutes, and that's also going to be in the brew module under mash rest. I'll also make that required. Save that custom field. I'm going to add mash step temp 2, and that's going to be a temperature, brew, mash rest required. Then we have mash step time 2, and that is a time, minutes, brew, mash rest required. And then finally I'll add in the 3rd mash step and time. So mash step temp 3, temperature, brew, mash rest required. And the last one, mash step time 3, time, minutes, brew, mash rest required. So now what I've done is, as you can see here, during the mash rest, there are now 6 custom fields set up. I've got my 3 mash temps, and I've got my 3 mash times all set up and ready to go. So what I'm able to do now is these custom fields will now be available in all of my recipes. So if I go over to the recipes module, I go into my America's Finest Lager, and what I'm able to see here is, if we have a look at 06.2 mash rest, you'll see that the 3 times and the 3 mash temperatures are now visible. So if I go and edit this particular recipe, I can see here that I've got mash step temp 1, temp 2, temp 3, time 1, time 2, time 3. Let's go put in some numbers here for this particular recipe. Now it's a lager, so I'm going to do 63 degrees. I'm going to go to 68 degrees. Then I'm going to go to 72 degrees. My 63 degree rest is going to be for 20 minutes. The next one's the 68 degrees going to be for 25 minutes, and the 72 degree rest is going to be only for 10 minutes. The rest of this recipe I'm going to leave exactly as is. Scroll down to the bottom, hit save recipe, and now my lager recipe has been updated with my 3 mash rest temperatures and times. So what I'm able to do now is I can go into the brew module and I can actually kick off a brew. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off a brew of America's Finest Lager into fermenter number 80 here. So let's go America's Finest Lager, give it a batch number, and I'm going to go into FV80, and then my brew starts. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my first mash subset. I'm going to do my lot tracking for the salts and my pale malt, and I'm going to hit start mash. So now that my mash has started, you'll see here in the brew log, now what I see are my 3 mash step temps and times. And you can actually see that the targets that I have set for this recipe are already there. So my work production team already know the temperatures and the times for each of the mash steps in this particular beer. Now, as you can see as well, there's a lot of other different bits of data that you can collect here. Now, one of the things that's part of our SOP for my work production team is our Vorlauf, okay? So our Vorlauf doesn't actually run according to a particular time. It's basically run to clarity. So what I'd actually like to do now is I'd like to go and delete the Vorlauf start and Vorlauf stop sections of the brew sheet. And what that does is it helps us to tidy up the brew sheet to make it much more simpler and streamlined so as not to overwhelm the work production crew. Let's go set that up. So in order to simplify the fields that Beer30 captures during a brew, I simply just go into Tools, and there's this section here that says Manage Brew Steps. Now, in order to get rid of the Vorlauf start and Vorlauf stop, it's very simple. All I need to do is click the little tick there, hit save, and you'll see that the Vorlauf start and Vorlauf stop are now inactive. And that means that they won't be visible on the brew sheet. So let's go back to the brew and have a look at how it looks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start the second turn of this particular brew. I'll put in all my lot tracking very, very quickly, and I'll hit start mash. Now, as you can see now, the section for Vorlauf start and Vorlauf stop has now disappeared. And what it's done is it's basically cleaned up this brew sheet so that my brewers can just follow our SOP of just Vorlaufing to clarity. It really is that simple. So as you can see, customizing your brew sheets for whatever you happen to do in your brewery is really, really simple. Beer30 really is the customizable solution to make sure that you make your beer your way as best as you possibly can. If you want to know more about brew sheet customization, leave the comment brew below and one of the Beer30 crew will reach out to you and we'll run you through brew sheet customization and all the other amazing features in Beer30. Thanks for watching this Tech Tip Tuesday. I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.